Hello and welcome to Be, Know, Do. Abandon yourself to the strengths of others. This mindset is the mindset of a successful leader. The mindset is one of humility. A wise leader understands that they do not have all the answers and will tap into the talents of others to achieve the overall mission. The core values are courage, honor, commitment, and teamwork. Humility speaks to each because it takes courage to admit you need someone else. You honor another when you put your trust in them. It is a daily commitment to stay humble because it's not in our nature. And if you remain humble, it fosters superior teamwork. Now each day I write a saying on the whiteboard. I write, how will you lead? Now those that work with me know what I mean by that because they understand how I define leadership. What I'm really asking them is, how will you serve? This simple question inspires us to look for ways that we can serve one another and our community. Because after all, we are all public servants. Throughout the day, we'll write all the ways that we have demonstrated leadership. Put another way, we document all the ways that we have influenced our sphere in a positive way. Now you can lead in grand ways, but it is really in the small things that we demonstrate humility on a daily basis. We have some great leaders here at CFD. And I've made it a habit and point to take something from all the leaders that I have served under. I learned to lead with humility from Lieutenant Hanauer. Lieutenant Hanauer demonstrated that you don't always need to take credit for the things you do. And in fact, he was known to give me credit for things I did not even do. He was my lieutenant, yet he was serving me. And that's true humility. Lieutenant Hanauer embodied what C.S. Lewis wrote when he said, true humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is thinking of yourself less. Serve your coworkers and the community with humility. Understand the talents and abilities of those you work with and tap into them, seeking to influence your sphere positively. Above all other titles, cherish the title of public servant, because in service, you will lead. Thank you.
Humility.
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 So, you know, for me, the primary goal for us is customer service. And that customer service runs the gamut from fighting a fire to running a medical call to doing a presentation for a bunch of kids out in the bay to getting somebody's cat out from behind their dryer for them. So it covers a whole lot of areas, and probably, if you think about it, the smallest area of our responsibilities or our customer service delivery obligations is fighting fires. I mean, to do the stuff that you see us doing like on TV or in a magazine or on the news or in a picture in the newspaper is such a small part of what we do. It gets the most attention, but it's the smallest and by no means, in my opinion, the most important aspect of our job. All the other things we do, no one knows about. You know, that if Lieutenant Morgan and his crew went out this morning and got a cat out from behind some teenage girl's dryer, because it was stuck and she had no idea how to get it out, no one will ever know that they did that. To do a presentation for a bunch of kids in the Bay, or to go over to Dixie School to do a special presentation with a specific crew for a bunch of autistic children, no one knows that we do those things. But those things are just as important as going out and doing the 1% of our time that we spend on fighting fires and doing those kind of exciting things. The rest of it, oh, it's commercial fire alarm. Okay, I think we'll go on that. Talk about the 1%.
Yes.
What that all comes down to is we do all those things with the same amount of dedication, with the same amount of effort, with the same amount of attention to detail. and dedication to doing it right, whether it's helping someone back into bed or it's doing a hub ed for some kids. The humility comes in the fact that we're not looking for attention. We get the big incidents and we have some fires and we end up in the newspaper and things like that, and that's not what we're doing this for, though, is that attention. We're doing it to help people, whether it be some large incident or just, you know, it is, like I said earlier, it's something as simple as helping someone get their cat out from behind a dryer. Nobody ever knows about those things, but we do them, and we do them with the same fervor, the same attention to detail, and the same dedication to doing them right. And that's where humility comes in for all of us. 99% of the time, we're not looking for attention. We just want to take care of people. We want to take care of kids. We want to make the community safe. We just want to do those things. We don't look for the attention. And that's what we do on a global level. I would say if you were to take it down to like my position in the fire department, you know, I see my job as supporting you in your delivery of customer service. It's not my job to stand on some street corner and point with a helmet on or something like that, or to go around, you know, puffing out my chest and going, well, you guys need to do these things. That's not my job at all. My job is to support you in the delivery of your service. So I see my job as a behind the scenes job. And I'm not, and I don't think any chief here is looking for attention. They're not looking to be the big shot. They're not looking to make sure everybody thinks that they're a boss. None of those types of things. I would say the chiefs here, for the most part, are looking simply to support the mission of you guys that are out actually doing the delivery of customer service. So I think that's where the humility comes into our jobs. And I would say 99.9% of the time, we have pretty humble jobs, and we deliver them. We deliver the services we deliver in a very humble manner. And in my mind, that's a good thing.
Humility.
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 Oh, man.
So when you asked me to do this, though, Sean, and I thought about it for a while, and that's where I came up with, it's a lot easier for me to describe humility by what it isn't. But those same things that it isn't are things that we expect our employees to do in service delivery. So one thing is an action, which is, you know, whether it's brave, bold, you know, doing, you know, that whole risk management model, as opposed to day-to-day operations of, you know, are you arrogant? Are you this? Do you talk down to people? Do you think down to people? As opposed to, you know, are you a sponge essentially taking information in? And, you know, if someone who isn't learning every day probably isn't very humble. If you think about it, because they think that that's that arrogance. Oh, I already know it all. You know, I've been on this. I've done this 100 times. Well, every situation is different. We work in a very dynamic and complex world, where you might have the thought process down. You've got your, you know, whether it's an EMS call or a fire call, a click, 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 going through your internal checklist. But you still need to do that, as opposed to, oh, I've done this 100 times before. If you look at different situations, you know, you owe it to your crew to thoroughly process as opposed to just blindly charge in, right? So would you call that being humble? Or would you say that's, you know, thoughtful? So you start to get into those sorts of things. You know, meek is another thing that follows humility, but I don't think there's a whole lot of meekness in Corvallis Fire. AJ? Shaking his head no. I mean, that's not the kind of person that does this job. So if you get away from the dictionary and say, you know, what makes someone humble is generally they're always trying to learn. They listen to others. You know how we tell volunteers that safety is everyone's responsibility? Well, if you're the battalion chief on a call and the volunteer says, hey, what about that? They have a duty to do that. It doesn't matter where they fit rank-wise. And recognizing that, as I would say, is part of humility. And then believing it. Not just giving it window dressing, but saying, this is the way it is. Now, when you get together with a new crew, you have expectations, right? And those expectations are delivered through a treatise, or are they delivered through interactive conversation? And does every person at the table get an equal airtime, so to speak? Generally, and that's showing respect. That's showing humility. If you're doing your job really well, are you the officer 24 hours that you're on duty? No, you shouldn't have to be. Somebody's got to make decisions on calls, whether it's EMS or fire, but it's a cooperative. In theory, we're all adults. We know what we're supposed to do, and we should be able to expect that gets done. Correct?
Mm-hmm. And I talked about it in my talk. You always take. I tried to take something from every leader that I've worked under, and every leader has their strengths.
Well,
and yours always was training and learning every day.
Mm-hmm.
That was and so I knew exactly where you would go with this conversation. Those are the first things you mentioned right after that. Learn every day, training, and you don't know it all, and you're humble if you understand that.
Well, when someone says they're an expert, that scares me. That's take a step sideways and one back. Mm-hmm. I've done I've done this 100 times. Well, it doesn't mean it's going to be the same. The whole idea here is a good outcome. Mm-hmm. How we get to that outcome. But if you look at humility, unassuming, meekness, gentle, modest, ordinary, polite, quiet, respectful, self-effacing, sheepish. I don't think we have a lot of sheeple around here. But when you look at these other behaviors, pretentious, proud, those kind of things, cavalier.
Well, and those attitudes will get you in trouble.
And
incidents.
They have. And there was an incident 20 summers ago that got a bunch of people in trouble in Colorado.
Yep. Yep.
Like 14.
The story I always talk about is how I was I RSI'd Batman that jumped off the hay bales.
Mm-hmm.
He was a young kid, and because I was aggressive, well, all of a sudden now I can't intubate him, and I can't even get him bagged well because his size. And I went into a cavalier like this is an easy skill. I need to be aggressive, and then now, boy, I might kill this 18-year-old kid. And I got humble real fast. So
yeah.
I'm more humble now with the use of RSI because I got my butt kicked on that one.
No, but you learn from that experience. Learning from, that's the whole idea is we ought to be going home at 0700 having learned something, whether it's about ourselves, a skill.
Hair care
tips. The thing is that if you think about the customer, the person who calls 911, they are not having a good day. They are not expecting company. And no, I'm serious.
Yeah, you're right.
Even though it may be something very minor, things are in their world are not functioning the way they should. And the way you treat them, whether it's EMS or fire or odor investigation, or the lady do you remember the lady with the smoke detector that was a cell phone telling her it needed to be charged? Station 3? Mm-mm. We spent about 10 minutes walking around this house. None of the smoke detectors were sounding, and lady was in her 80s, and it's like, ma'am, do you have a cell phone by chance? Would you mind getting it? And it was a low battery on her cell phone. And she had spent 40 minutes looking through her house trying to figure out what this noise was coming from. So treat them with respect.